is also inspiring other African countries. At the center of Traore's plan lies the idea of using Africa's natural resources for the benefit of the African people. Traore, who aims to gain full control over mineral reserves, agricultural lands, and forest resources that have so far remained under the control of Western companies, has taken radical steps to achieve this. The Burkina Faso leader, who demanded the renegotiation of agreements with international companies, is calling for a fair sharing of his country's resources. Western companies and governments were shocked by these demands. France, in particular, increased its diplomatic pressure out of fear of losing its economic influence over its former colony. The young leader of Burkina Faso gave a clear message to the international community during his speech at the African Economic Summit held in Ouagadougou last month, saying, "Africa's wealth must remain in Africa." The uneasy glances of Western diplomats and business people present during the speech showed how difficult the change would be. Traore's words signaled the end of the economic system that has persisted since the colonial period, a reality that is difficult for economies that have been feeding on Africa's resources for centuries to accept. Regarding the financing of the 300,000 job plan, Traore is following an unexpected strategy. The Burkina Faso leader, who rejected loan offers from Western financial institutions, prefers to use the country's own resources instead. It is planned to directly transfer the income from gold mines to these projects. Dr. Amadou Diallo, Traore's economic advisor, stated, "For years, we were forced to sell our gold on the London Exchange and then take loans for much less than the value of the same gold. We are breaking this cycle." This statement clearly reveals how Africa's natural resources have been exploited. One of the most striking elements of Traore's plan is the major transformation to be carried out in the agricultural sector. Irrigation projects initiated to transform Burkina Faso's arid lands into productive agricultural lands aim to ensure the country's food security. The 1,000 tractors and modern agricultural equipment that were delivered are seen as the first concrete steps of this transformation. Fatima Ouedraogo, an official from the Ministry of Agriculture, stated, "With this equipment, modern agriculture can be practiced on 150,000 hectares of land, and it will provide direct employment to approximately 100,000 people." The facilities to be established for processing raw materials are of great importance within the scope of the plan, which is described as West Africa's largest industrial initiative. The facilities to be established for processing valuable minerals such as gold, copper, and manganese extracted from Burkina Faso's rich mineral deposits will provide employment to 50,000 people. The processing and export of minerals, which until now have been exported raw and sold at prices far below their value, have the potential to increase the country's export revenues fivefold. This situation is making Western mining companies and metal processing industries nervous. While Western economic experts describe Traore's plan as an unrealistic dream, the financial infrastructure of the plan is based on solid foundations. Burkina Faso's 40% increase in gold production in the last 3 years, and the direct transfer of revenues from the mining sector to the state treasury constitute an important source for the financing of the project. In addition, agreements made with alternative partners such as China and Russia serve as a shield against Western economic pressure. These strategic partnerships are causing the Western economic system's hegemony on the continent to dissolve. One of the most important pillars of Traore's economic plan is education reform. The program initiated to educate the young population in the fields of technology and industry aims to provide free vocational training to 50,000 young people. The Technology and Innovation Center, established at the University of Ouagadougou, the country's largest university, will operate as Africa's most modern educational complex. Professor Joseph Ouattara, the director of the center, says, "The young people who will be trained here will be the pioneers of Africa's Technological transformation. This educational initiative has the potential to reverse Africa's brain drain. One of Traore's most criticized decisions was his rejection of Saudi Arabia's offer to build 400 mosques in the country. Instead, Traore, who wanted the same source to be directed to industrial investments, stated, "We have mosques. We don't have factories. We must set our priorities correctly." This decision shows Traore's pragmatic approach and that he puts economic development above everything else. While Western media interpreted this decision as anti-Islamic, the people of Burkina Faso support the decision. The industrial component of Traore's employment plan includes Africa's first large-scale technology production facilities. The facilities, which will produce everything from chip production to solar panels, from electric vehicle batteries to smart agricultural equipment, will provide employment to 70,000 people. In particular, the processing of raw materials critical for technology, such as Africa's rich lithium, cobalt, and rare earth elements, will create a great added value. This move threatens the supply chains of Western technology giants and is causing many companies to reconsider their strategies for direct investment in Africa. The financial sector component of Traore's economic independence plan also includes quite radical steps. Work has begun to create a regional digital currency to free the Central Bank of West Africa from its structure tied to the French treasury. This initiative has the potential to end France's financial control over the region. Economy Minister Hamidou Konate says, "If we cannot control our own money, we cannot talk about real independence." This financial independence move could be a turning point, not only for Burkina Faso, but for all West African countries. The new economic cooperation network established by Burkina Faso with neighboring countries has the potential to form a regional economic bloc. Trade agreements signed with Mali, Niger, Ghana, and Côte d'Ivoire aim to increase intra-regional trade and reduce economic dependence on the West. This cooperation has the potential to provide employment to 50,000 people in the fields of logistics and trade. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, an economist who shares the same name as the Pan-Africanist leader, chairman of the Regional Economic Cooperation Commission, says, "Africa's wealth should circulate within Africa." Traore's energy projects are also extremely ambitious. The projects initiated in the fields of solar energy, biomass, and hydroelectricity aim to ensure the country's energy independence and create employment for 30,000 people. Solar energy projects, in particular, are expected to change the lives of millions of people in Burkina Faso's rural areas who do not have access to electricity. Jean-Baptiste Zungrana, an official from the Ministry of Energy, says, "We aim to provide clean and reliable energy to 90% of our population within 5 years." This energy initiative also forms the basis of the country's industrial projects. Traore's infrastructure projects aim to modernize the country's transportation and communication networks. The construction of 5,000 kilometers of new highways, 1,200 kilometers of railways, and a national digital communication network will directly provide employment to 50,000 people. These infrastructure investments are of vital importance for the country's economic transformation. Infrastructure Minister Issouf Compaoré says, "Modern infrastructure is essential for a modern economy. These investments will be the lifelines of our economy." Traore, who rejected loan offers from Western financial institutions for the financing of infrastructure projects, is cooperating with alternative partners such as China and Russia. While Western media criticizes Traore's plan as chaos, an example of unrealistic populism, the first concrete steps of the plan have already begun to be taken. The modern agricultural equipment production facility, which was put into service last month, has the potential to reduce the country's import of agricultural machinery by 60%. Speaking at the opening of the facility, Traore said, "We have the capacity to produce our own equipment. We were not given the opportunity. We are creating this opportunity ourselves." This statement summarizes Traore's philosophy of self-sufficiency. Burkina Faso's economic initiative has also mobilized other African countries. The leaders of Mali, Niger, and Guinea have announced similar economic independence plans. This domino effect threatens the Western economic system's hegemony in Africa. Dr. François Dubois from the International Institute for Strategic Studies says, "If this movement spreads, the world economic system could be reshaped." This assessment shows the potential global impact of Traore's plan. One of the most important social dimensions of Traore's economic plan is the importance given to women's employment. It is aimed that at least 40% of total employment will be allocated to women. In this context, special financing programs and training opportunities are offered to women entrepreneurs. Women's Rights and Family Minister Aissata Zongo says, "Women are the backbone of our economy. A real economic transformation is not possible without empowering them." This approach also signals a change in Africa's traditional social structure. Traore's plan is also transforming traditional financial systems. With microcredit programs and cooperative banking models, it aims to facilitate small producers and entrepreneurs' access to finance. With this system, it is planned to establish and develop 100,000 small businesses. Finance expert Dr. Aminata Diallo says, "This system creates an alternative to the credit conditions imposed by Western banks and keeps profits within local communities." This finance model challenges the Western banking system. The reforms Traore has made in the healthcare system both contribute to employment and improve public health. Local medicinal plant research centers and drug production facilities have the potential to provide employment to 20,000 people. This approach, which combines Africa's rich herbal medicine tradition with modern medicine, aims to reduce dependence on imported drugs. Health Minister Dr. Paul Kabori says, "We can produce our own medicines for our own diseases." This approach threatens the dominance of Western pharmaceutical companies in the African market. Traore's education reform aims to change the traditional Western-style curriculum with an Africa-centered approach. An education system was developed that focuses on education in local languages, a curriculum that focuses on African history and culture, and emphasizes practical skills. Education Minister Stanislas Ouaro says, "We are teaching our children our own realities and potential." This education reform provides employment to 30,000 teachers and education personnel and aims to raise young generations as individuals who are free from Western influence and connected to their own cultural identity. Traore's economic independence plan also has a media dimension. Work has begun to create a national digital media platform and establish an Africa-centered news network. This initiative has the potential to provide employment to 10,000 media workers. Communication Minister Emmanuel Sanon says, "We should tell our own story ourselves. Western media organizations should not decide how to portray Africa." This media strategy creates an alternative to the dominance of Western news agencies in Africa. Burkina Faso's investments in the cultural industry sector are also noteworthy. It is planned to establish film studios, music production centers, and digital art laboratories. These facilities have the potential to provide employment to 20,000 artists and cultural workers. Culture Minister Abdul Karim Sango says, "Africa's cultural richness can be transformed into an economic power." This cultural industry strategy aims to strengthen Africa's cultural identity while also creating economic value. One of Traore's most ambitious projects is Africa's first indigenous automobile production facility. The facility, which will produce electric and solar-powered vehicles, has the potential to provide direct employment to 20,000 people. Industry Minister Haruna Kabore says, "Africa will have its own car. we are developing an environmentally friendly and economical model. This project challenges the dominance of Western automotive giants in the African market and aims to develop local engineering capacity. Traore's tourism strategy also forms an important part of the economic independence plan. Ecotourism projects that highlight the country's rich natural beauty and cultural heritage have the potential to provide employment to 15,000 people. Tourism Minister Elise Thiombiano says, "While introducing Africa's beauties to the world, we will ensure that tourism revenues serve the development of local communities." This approach creates an alternative to traditional tourism models dominated by Western tour operators. Traore's food security strategy aims to reduce dependence on imports and increase local production. This strategy, which aims to secure the country's food supply with modern agricultural techniques, seed banks, and food processing facilities, has the potential to provide employment to 50,000 people. Agriculture and Food Security Minister Salifou Ouedraogo says, "A self-sufficient food system is the foundation of economic independence." This strategy challenges the dominance of Western agricultural companies in the African market. Traore's environmental protection and climate change strategy combines economic development with sustainability. It is aimed to provide employment to 25,000 people through afforestation projects, combating desertification, and renewable energy investments. Environment and Sustainable Development Minister Batio Bassire says, "Although Africa is the continent most affected by climate change, it can also be part of the solution." This approach offers an environmentally friendly economic model as an alternative to the development models imposed by Western countries. Traore's economic independence plan has caused a great stir in the international arena. While Western governments and international financial institutions criticize the plan, it receives great support from African countries and other developing countries. The United Nations Secretary General described Traore's plan as bold and inspiring. This international support increases the viability of Traore's plan and creates a shield against Western economic pressures. The first concrete results of Traore's 300,000-person employment plan have already begun to be received. 5,000 people were employed in 10 agricultural processing facilities that opened last month. It is expected that 50,000 more people will be provided with job opportunities in the next 6 months. Economic analyst Dr. Jacques Sanogo says, "The first results are promising. Those who say Traore's plan is unrealistic are ignoring those concrete steps. Thus, first successes show that the plan is feasible and increase public support." The most important psychological effect of Traore's economic independence plan was to give the message, "We can do it," to the African peoples. It has been a great source of morale for a continent that has been described as underdeveloped and in need of help for years, to show that it can stand on its own feet and gain its economic independence. Sociologist Dr. Marie Konate says, "This plan is not only an economic, but also a psychological revolution. It is rebuilding Africa's self-confidence. This increase in self-confidence may be the most important gain of the plan for Africa's future." The biggest challenges faced by Traore's plan are the economic and diplomatic pressures of Western powers. Former colonial powers, especially France, are trying every way to protect their economic interests. Threats of economic embargo, cutting off international credits, and defamation campaigns carried out through the media are the most visible examples of this pressure. However, Traore stands firm against these pressures and says, "We are ready to pay the price for Africa's independence." This determination increases the support of the African peoples. Traore's economic independence plan is also accelerating the economic integration of West Africa. Agreements made with Mali, Niger, Ghana, and Côte d'Ivoire are laying the foundations of a regional economic bloc. This bloc has the potential to be a significant economic power with a population of more than 100 million and rich natural resources. Dr. Emmanuel Nana, chairman of the Regional Economic Cooperation Committee, says, "This cooperation could be a turning point in Africa's struggle for economic independence. This regional integration offers a strong alternative to the West's divide and rule strategy." Among the most important supporters of Traore's economic plan is the African diaspora. Professionals, scientists, and entrepreneurs of African origin from all over the world are returning to contribute to Burkina Faso's economic transformation. This reverse brain drain enriches the country's human resources and provides the technical capacity needed for transformation. Diaspora Affairs Minister Maxime Kone says,